Okay, so let's get started by establishing two very important concepts I want you to get. First of all, quality versus quantity. You got that? Quality versus quantity. Okay, now quality, when I say chord quality, I'm talking about things, and you've heard them before, I'm talking about things like major, minor, diminished, augmented. Okay, write those down. We'll get into them step by step. But chord qualities, are things like major, minor, dominant, diminished. Okay, but that's only one part of the chord. The quantity is how big we're going to make that quality. Okay, we need both. But how big are we going to make it? A triad, it's just a three-tone chord. That's just the bare minimum to make a chord. Seventh, now we're moving into a particular four-tone chord. Now we're going to have four fingers down, but we're still going to be a major. We're still going to borrow the quality that we need, major, minor, dominant, diminished, but then we're going to combine that with a seven. So now we're going to combine the two words together, and we're going to get a major seven, or a minor seven, or a dominant seven, or a diminished seven. We can do the same thing moving along. So we got triads, we got sevenths, you probably heard ninths, we got 11ths, we got 13ths. I'm gonna explain all of that to you, but those are your quantity, okay? So you got quality and quantity, put those two things together, and you got all the chords you'll ever need to know, from the basic major chords to, some bigger 13th chords and things like that. So you got that? Okay. Now the next thing I need to tell you is that most chords you will learn are what we call tertian chords. You got that? Tertian, Tertian, tertian chords. Most chords are tertian. Now you probably heard primary, secondary, tertiary, tertian. That means three. Okay, so when we're talking about chords like major chords and minor chords and things like that, we're talking about chords that are built off of third intervals. Some people should be smiling because the first DVD in the Musician Transformation Collection, which was called Fundamental Factory, it ended on teaching you intervals. And one of the most important intervals that it spotlighted was the third interval. Why did you think I did that? Because of what you're going to learn now. You can play chords by just understanding third intervals. I repeat, you can play chords by just understanding third intervals. Okay? Now let me take you to the piano and let me explain all of this to you. We're going to start with our triads. Okay? So we're going to start with major, then we're going to move on to minor, then we're going to do diminished, then we're going to do augmented, and then we're going to make them bigger. And these are all tertian chords, okay? Until we get into like altered chords and other kind of chords, most of the chords are tertian, especially if they're major, minor, dominant, diminished, augmented, they're tertian chords, built off of thirds, okay? So how do I play a major chord? If I know my scale, Jermaine, how do I play a major chord? Well, there's several ways. You could either take the first, third, and fifth tone of the scale. That'll give you a major chord. What's the first tone of C? That's a trick question, it's C. What's the third tone of C? It's E. And what's the fifth tone of C? It's G. Play those together, and you got yourself a major chord by just taking a simple formula. Now that goes back to the number system. You got the first tone of the scale, you got the third tone of the scale, and then you got the fifth tone of the scale. Okay, so that formula is pretty simple. First tone, third tone, fifth tone, you got yourself a major chord. You could do that in any key. You could go to the key of F, take the first tone of F, third tone of F, fifth tone of F. Now you got yourself an F major chord. The name of the major chord also coincides with the first note when you're doing this formula. So the 1 is always the title. So if the 1 is F, the 3 is A, and the 5 is C, that's an F major chord. A flat. You could take the 1, the 3, and the 5 of A flat, which is A flat, C, and E flat. And that is the major chord. Now that's the cheater way to do it. That's fine, the 1, 3, 5. But you can really mistake it, That's when you could say, well, G major chord is is a G flat major chord is G flat, A sharp, and C sharp. A lot of people do that. They mix the sharps and flats, and that's because, you know, maybe they didn't have a foundation to begin with. And doing 1, 3, 5, you know, if you know your major scales and you know them correctly, 1, 3, 5 will help you, because there's no way to go wrong if you're using the notes of the major scale, you know. But if you aren't, and you're just kind of coming up with the 1, 3, 5 based on, you know, how it sounds, a lot of people will be like C sharp, F, and A flat. That's totally wrong, you know. It's either D flat, F, and A flat, or it's C sharp, E sharp. Yeah, that's different. And G sharp. Remember what we talked about, the rules of third. They have to have 3 alphabet letters in between them. So if I call this C sharp and I call this F, that's 4 alphabet letters. You got a C, D, E, F. And we don't want that. We have to call this some kind of E. And we do that by sharping E. E sharp. C, E sharp, and G sharp. Okay? So that's the cheater way to do it, 1, 3, 5. And then if you want to do the minor chord, you just take the 3 and you flat it. Okay? Remember, flat is to lower something. You're going to flat it a whole step. So if you wanted to take the C major chord, C, E, G, you would flat it to E flat. You hear that difference there? Now you hear it. I'm going to show it to you. C, E, G. Now you flat it to C, E flat, G. Now notice you can't really use the 1, 3, 5 rule. I mean, on the major scale, you can use 1, 3, 5 and flat the 3, and that's when you hear terminology like flat 3. You can say that, flat 3. It's the 3, but it's flatted, so we call it the flat 3. So the minor chord, the minor triad, because triad is 3 notes, is the 1, flat 3, 5. In other words, C, E flat, G. So you got C, E, G, you got C, E flat, G. Okay? Now let me teach you a better way, because like I said, these chords are tertian chords. They're built off of third intervals. So it's better for you to understand it from an intervallic approach. Instead, you know, you could do 1, 3, 5 all day. That'll work for you. But to really understand the essence of the chords, we want to go back to this idea of third. So let's go back to our keyboard and let's figure out what is a major third up from C. Remember, major thirds have 4 half steps. If you skip that fundamental factory, now you need to go back if you don't understand this. Okay? What's a major third up from C? It's E, because major thirds have 4 half steps in between. So you got C to D flat to D, D to E flat to E. So we have 4 half steps, and we're also staying true to the idea that thirds also encompass 3 alphabet letters, C, D, and E. Okay, so C, D, and E are encompassed. C and E are on the outside, of course. Those are the notes being played. Has 4 half steps, and it's a great chord. Okay, it's the beginning of a chord. Now, if I want to play a minor third, I do 3 half steps, but I don't change my alphabet letters. It's still some kind of C, still some kind of E. Okay, now here's what you do. If you want to play a major chord, you just combine third intervals. You got that? If you want to play a major chord, you just combine third intervals. Okay? Every chord, like major chords, they're a mix. Okay? And you're going to see what I mean. So on the bottom is a major third. But what you do is you put a minor third on top of it. So from this E here, you're going to put a minor third from it. You get that? So you have a major third on the bottom, on the foundation of the chord, but you're going to have a minor third on top. And why is this a minor third? Because it's only 3 half steps in between it. E to F is 1 half step. F to F sharp is 2 half steps. F sharp to G is 3 half steps. So it is a minor third, but notice, E, G, how many alphabet letters is encompassed by E, G? If you sang in the alphabet, E, F, G, that's how many letters? E, F is encompassed, and G. Okay, so E, F, G, that's 3. So that's a third. That defines it as a third. But then when you say it's 3 half steps, now you know specifically it's a minor third. So you got major third, minor third. Play them together, and you have a major chord. Do you get that? Major third on the bottom, minor third on top, combine them with this being a common note between both, combine them, and now you have yourself a major chord. So major triads, major chords, triad and chord, same thing in this context, because a triad is a 3-finger chord. Now if I did this, it's no longer a triad. We're gonna call that something else. But for now, this is a major triad. Now, what do you do if you want a minor triad? You flip that relationship. You get it? You flip it. You gotta flip it. So instead of a major third on bottom, minor third on top, you're gonna do minor third on bottom, major third on top, minor third on bottom, major third on top. We flipped it. So the foundation is kind of what gives you the quality of the chord, that first interval right here. But the top, the top just kind of adds to it and makes the chord full. But for now, it's that starting major or minor third that establishes everything. Because notice the G is constant. Here's your minor third. Here's your minor chord. It's C, E flat, and G. Again, C, E flat, and G. This is a minor third because it has 3 half steps. But notice here, this is a major third because it has 4 half steps. Sound like blues there, doesn't it? Okay, so when you combine that, there's your C minor chord. So you got major, C, E, G, you got minor, C, E flat, G. You understand that these are chords built off of thirds. So far, it's all thirds. So far, that's a major third, that's a minor third. In this chord, that's a minor third, that's a major third. That's why these are called tertian chords, because thirds build them. Now, let's move on to a new chord quality. This is called the diminished chord, okay? This is scary. You hear that? It's really scary. And in diminished chords, I might as well say augmented chords as well. These are different kind of qualities. Major, minor, okay, those are cool. Those go together. One is the opposite, so to speak, of the other.